Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettyjohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there as usual. We are excited today. You know, we go over all the islands. We try to find out what's happening out there in the business world. And sometimes there's a few of them out there that have their pulse on it just in such a way we have to have them back. And so we're excited to have with us the big boss, Kiran Polk. She is in charge of the West Side Chamber of Commerce, or Kapolei Chamber of Commerce. And we are grateful to have her back, but not a lot of you were we were just starting. She was helping us out when we were just getting started, but now that we've had some experience, she's had a few things that she's been working on. We need to find out again and reintroduce her to us. Again, welcome, Kiran, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, thank you for having me back. I'm excited to share some updates today and talk a little bit more about the West Side and what's happening in the business world on our side of the island. But yeah, for those of you who didn't catch the first episode or are not familiar with who I am, I've worked, speaking of the West Side, I've worked out here on the West Side for since 2005, a long time, in some shape or form. I've been the executive director for the Kapolei Chamber for almost 7 years. And before that, let's see, I worked for a city council member as a chief of staff. I helped open the Kroc Center. Some people are familiar with that. And then I worked in real estate development and property management previously in my previous life. And so I've done a lot of different things, worn different hats. And now I'm executive director for the Kapolei Chamber. I'm also the editor for an annual magazine called Kapolei Magazine.
Now that just came out, right? Now that just a brand new issue just came out. Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
It is. Yes, it just came out. For those who are watching, who are Pacific Business News subscribers, they got a special edition. I think it came out on Tuesday.
Okay.
Awesome. So
now, you're smiling. Now, people, you're a bit of a. Some of your past life too was you were spending time writing, and that's not an easy thing to do. But putting a magazine together, this is yours, right?
I'm the editor. Yes,
right.
It's mine. Yes, and so very proud of it. It's my baby. You know, it's really kind of a snapshot of what has happened in the last year in development and growth on the West. You know, in the Kapolei region,
right.
Primarily Kapolei Neva, but. And then it also has a forecast and overlook of what's coming next.
Okay.
So,
it's business minded, it's business oriented. The chamber is a business organization. So you've taken this little baby here and you've made it something valuable. So now it's like a historical record of, here's where we're at, but here's where we're going. Some vision setting. It
absolutely is. So it just kind of gives a great snapshot of what's happening. The cover, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, a little bit closer back to you, to your face. Yeah, this Zoom thing does it. But yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
So that is actually the Academy of Creative Media. So that is for those who aren't familiar, at UH West Oahu just opened this past year during the pandemic. And one of my favorite statements from this magazine that I've shared is, Kapolei, well, the world stopped in 2020 over the last year. But Kapolei kept moving. And it's true. I mean, we were still building, we still had groundbreakings and grand openings and things happening in Kapolei. And so It's pretty amazing.
I know there's a large veterans home that they're building over there to add to the needs of the for the veterans, or to help with the veterans there.
A veterans home and a veterans clinic, VA clinic.
That is great.
So both. I mean, yeah, some great things happening. But yeah, if you haven't gotten a copy, definitely look for that. Become a subscriber. We'll be putting it online too in the next couple of weeks.
Well, we talked about you that you've been working in Kapolei, but you also were raised here on the islands, right?
I was an Air Force brat. My father was in he was stationed at Hickam. So he had two tours of service here. And so I grew up here, most of my childhood. And then of course we moved, but I had a family here throughout my whole life. My mom was from Fiji, and so her family immigrated here. And so, yeah, I'm a local girl at heart, even though I had the Air Force military brat.
Yeah, that happened. You get taken around all over the world, and my wife was an Army brat, and so I know the type. No, I'm kidding. It's it just happened. You're moving around, and you have you meet new people every 2 or 3 years, and you just get sort of worldly. You get experienced.
It's fun. It's fun. So yeah, I've been back though here for will be 20 years next year. So
wow.
Long time.
That's awesome. Yeah. So all that energy, you love the West Side, and that's better than town. You call the people in town townies, not negatively, of course. It's just they're different than us. The folks out there, you have a different mentality, different mindset, and you've got different goals, right? Because you're not, I guess, completely.
And, it actually even goes back to, even you look at Native Hawaiian culture, and there's a sense of place, right?
Right.
You look at the mo'elo for different places, the stories of how, so we have our own sense of place.
Right. Different story, different history.
Exactly. So it's even as simple as that too. But we definitely have our own culture on it.
Every place got its own little bit of pride that they represent.
West Side pride.
Right. That's right. So that's good. So with that pride, you've taken that, and plus your professional experience. It feels like this last year, you're the editor. You've sort of encapsulated what's happened to us, and sort of started to help create a vision. What are some things that you're executing now through the chamber or through other initiatives? Maybe as it relates to the pandemic, maybe as it relates to different things, you're helping the business community and this economics and the regrowth and the sort of coming out of this for Hawaii. How are you helping this? How does the chamber help with that?
Yeah, well, I can kind of start with sharing what we did to help. We're, as a chamber, a lot of people don't understand what a chamber does, and I explain it. The best way to explain is it's really a part of our mission is we help our businesses thrive. Right. How do we do that? We do that in different ways, through advocacy, through networking, through information and resources. And just support. And so one of the things that, since you and I talked, that we definitely kind of stepped up and worked on it was the vaccination efforts on the West Side. We discovered, looking back earlier this year, that our vaccination rates in West Oahu, has been on the news. You probably heard that they're extremely low at one point. They were sitting at 35%. Wow. And they weren't moving. And it's a public health safety issue, of course, and this was before the Delta variant, overtook everything. But we also looked at it as just a very serious economic issue, because some of our small businesses were suffering. They would, contact me like, Kiran, it's hard. I have one employee out test positive, and I have to shut my business down. And I don't know how much more I can do this. So it became really a serious issue. So back at the end of July, I decided to pull together a task force, met with the Lieutenant Governor. And
Kiran talks, just a task force appears, huh? So Lieutenant Governor jumps on board. Who is it? Hard to put a task force together? It just seems like easy for you, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, let me just put it this way: it also included our healthcare providers. They're the really the ones that deserve all the praise on this, and they and the Department of Health.
Sure.
Also, absolutely. But, we all sat in a room and on Zoom and talked and said, how are we going to tackle this? And we decided we needed to engage the business community to do it. So we set up a series of vaccination efforts. First in Campbell Industrial Park, there's about 300 businesses out there. We teamed up with an organization that operates out there called Clean.
Okay.
And they helped us kind of coordinate that effort. And so we did a 3-day effort out there, and then followed by the hospitality industry. We worked with Koalina and with Residence Inn, and did a kind of a joint effort for that for 6 weeks. And just, again, people vaccinate. And then the big takeaway from it that we're still maintaining, if you go on to kapoleichamber.com, there's a big button that has vaccination information. and
Okay.
people can go to one place and find every vaccination clinic that's offered on the West Side and every free testing site. So that became pretty helpful, and it still is. People are still using it. Our elected officials are distributing the link because, you go through the Department of Health, you have to go through 5 different clicks to find out where
to go
are next to you. And so it's updated weekly, and it gives our community a resource to go and look for the information. So
okay, and where's that at again to remind everybody?
Because
you're still working. Start again. So what is it?
KapoleiChamber.com.
Okay, so nice one-stop link there rather than having to go chase everything down and try to figure it out.
So that was a huge effort. Well, I'm happy to say through a lot of hard work and effort, our numbers are slowly risen, and we're in a better place. It's a lot of grassroots efforts, but that was a huge undertaking. And so we just kind of wrapped up our last clinics earlier this month.
Well, that must have been, what were the results? I mean, percentages, I'm sure more than 35%, but I know that the state, we were looking for like 70% and we're close, but I'm sure that there was that's an amazing idea that businesses help do things the government can't do.
Well, it worked together. It was more about collaboration.
Right.
Even all of the healthcare providers worked together, and the Department of Health. We
it's
also
almost like an own island out there almost.
Well, I tell people all the time, I'm like, we're the other, a lot of people don't realize the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce, we are separate entities from them, but we work with them. I work very closely with Sherry and her team.
Right.
And I joke with her and her team. I'm like, you have the neighbor island, the Konakahala Chamber, the Kauai Chamber, and the Maui Chamber, the Kapolei Chamber. We're like our own island on your island. We have just as many members and if not more. And so, we definitely have our own needs on our side for sure.
Right. Yeah. So then the advocacy changes when there's a different needs in the community. The needs in Kapolei and up that coast up there, different than Honolulu or Hawaii Kai or
Exactly. So that was a huge need. I mean, when we saw those rates go, and so I'm happy to say they're doing better. We also, in addition to that, we have our ongoing support. Really doing some cool things, and we're still virtual right now. I am working on in-person events for early 2022. So those will.
Yeah, darn it, we missed. Hall & Oates had to cancel because
people don't realize it's so funny. The last announcement the mayor did when he opened things up, they're like, "When is your event?" Texting me, emailing me. I'm like, "Okay, folks, it does." Anyone who's done any kind of event planning will know it does take some time.
Right. It's not just automatically open.
It doesn't happen overnight.
The event will happen in one quarter, in 3 months all together.
Yeah. So we will have some stuff we're planning. I'm working on right now for early 2022. I'm excited about that. We used to have Pauhana networking events, extremely popular. If you go on our website, you can see there's videos of
big parties. But they were very professional. A lot of networking happening. Right?
A lot of networking. When I came out here, as the executive director 7 years ago, there was no networking. Everything is in town. Mm-hmm. And so I said, we have a need here, and it's huge. Everyone from the small business owner to the executive has said, I made a meaningful connection in one of your events, Kiran, because it provides that opportunity to have you talk story and meet. So I'm excited about that. We've done some online networking. We've done a lot of informational pieces. Just today, in fact, I'm really excited. We had a great session. It's going to be published online early next week. But we had a panel session with 3 nonprofits that are based out on our side and that serve our community and serve the state too. All 3 of them do. But we had a giving back to West Oahu panel. And we just talked story with them and found out what they do, who they are. So the 3 panels, and I can share that they're all members, but we had the Salvation Army Kroc Center as one of our panelists, U.S. vets, yesterday was Veterans Day, our formerly homeless veterans. They take them off the streets and help them. And then we had the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement, CNHA.
Okay.
So great
Wow.
information, but also just to educate we're hoping that it can put that session out. It's actually on my Facebook page too.
Okay.
Chamber.
Here in Polk? Or
it's on but it's on the Kapolei Chamber Facebook page. But yeah, I mean, just to learn what these nonprofits, how they served our community through the pandemic and in this last year and a couple of years, and what they do, who they are, and how they are looking to serve as we move forward. So really, really cool. So, and how the business community can be involved. I have people all the time say, you know, I want to give back. Who do I approach?
Yeah, how do we do that?
How do I do that?
Yeah, and I know there's some companies too that are trying to marry that. You know, there's some organizations out there that are trying to marry. Okay, here we want to do this training for folks. You maybe your employer, you have a certain type of work that you need. You need this type of laborers. You know, engaging these people somehow to help them build that labor pool that they need out there, right?
So you see my face light up, because that's a whole nother thing that we do at the Chamber. We have our Educational Workforce Development Committee.
Okay.
And we've done a lot, especially with the next generation too, right? So we've worked with our secondary education. Actually, Chancellor Maynette Benham is our chair of our committee.
Good.
But just to kind of give you an idea, pre-pandemic, we had this amazing event where we took 1,300 freshmen from Campbell High School and Kapolei.
Okay.
We bused them onto the campus at UH West Oahu. And we let them interview 80 employers. And I mean, it was just a great experience to kind of find out more about whatever industry, you know, what kind of jobs are available. Because sometimes there's other jobs that they aren't, you know, and what kind of training and skill sets they need to get those jobs.
Yeah, they've never been exposed to that. You know, what kind of things can I do here? Oh, I could do that, and there's a way to learn that, and I can. Yeah, we did a highlight on certified nurses assistants. Like, okay, there's 200 new jobs that came out today for certified nurses assistants. So, okay, what's the pathway for that? Maybe there's other pathways for folks they'd never considered.
Right. And also understanding what they mean. So yeah, connecting our businesses with our future employees.
Education, the training, yeah.
The education and training. And so that's one element of it. The other one, which kind of integrates into some really cool initiatives that we're working on post-pandemic, you know, the big word of the year, I think last year, was pivot. Everyone had to pivot.
Right.
That was the word of the year. And including those in their jobs. I mean, they actually had to, you know, a lot of our workers still are saying, you know, what do I do now? You know, they're either furloughed, laid off, or simply just, you know, decided they need to have a change for stability. And so there's a lot of retraining and reskilling that's happening right now. And so we're working closely with our educational institutions and with our employers too, finding out what their needs are. And so we're in the process of working on that as in our committee and our chamber on that. It's really cool stuff.
That's awesome. It sounds like, because it's not your, you know, chamber, you think, okay, just big picture, but you guys are really getting down into the weeds, right? Trying to figure out really what's the root cause of this thing, and can we address it if there's a way? Now, it sounds like when you do that as a leader, you have to sort of put together some sort of future vision on how we're going to accomplish that. Does the chamber have a list of sort of some initiatives that say, hey, this really is going to define our work maybe the next 5 years?
Yes, actually we do. And so you're speaking of task force. There's another task force that we have, and task forces, you know, they're meant to be.
It sounds important. It sounds important when you say task force. I mean, things are going to get done.
but they're also very, you know, results driven, and they're meant to be not a long term. I mean, you put a task force for a certain amount of time to accomplish something. So I think when I first talked with you, I mentioned we had just put together this task force. We met with the mayor at the end of April, but we put together a business revitalization task force. And really the premise of it is, you know, I mentioned a few minutes ago, the whole world stopped, but Kapolei kept moving. Well, there's some very truth and validity to that. all of the growth, or most of the growth in our state, is in our region. And that is a proven fact. And then on top of that, even it's a long-term state and city goal to push the growth out into our area. So for that reason, we are definitely well positioned to lead the efforts in economic recovery out of this pandemic as in our state. And so because of that, we felt it really was necessary and needed to put together a very solid strategic plan. And we have 6 priorities that we laid out. I can't do this alone. I've mentioned committees. I have a leader of this task force. I'm going to mention her name. Her name's Eliza Talbot, and she actually is she's with the resort group who runs Koalina. She's their government and development director. So she's helped me lead this task force. And there's others. I have a great team, but and I'd like to share with your listeners and your viewers a little bit more about what we're doing. It's really exciting. I think, we looked and said, okay, what's happening? I mentioned the retooling and reskilling. That's definitely one of the priorities. But the first thing we realized, connected to it, we realized that through the pandemic, everyone was online, right? We're all online. And all of a sudden there became this very obvious issue with broadband. Okay. And this is national, right?
Just connectivity, yeah.
Connectivity. But we realized on the West Side that it was even the disparity and the divide was even greater.
How do you measure that, like per home, or how do you just sort of, I guess.
So just to give you an idea, yeah, and I can give you 2010 census numbers. I don't have the 2020 ones dialed in completely, but I can tell you it hasn't changed much. But going off the 2010 numbers, to give you an idea, on the Waianae Coast, 77% of the households on the Waianae Coast are connected with internet connectivity. Whether it be socioeconomic reasons or just even connectivity, period, from the infrastructure piece, both really. Compare that 77% to the east side, East Honolulu, which is at 93. It's a huge divide. Yeah. And so because of that, we think it's really important to make sure that, as these infrastructure funding pieces come out, that there's definitely identification and direction on those funding to address it so that we step out of this where we need to be. And so when we looked at that we said, okay, one of the issues during the pandemic, a lot of our folks were out of work and they said, I want to start my own business. Right. And they did from their homes. They're working at home.
Necessity is the mother of invention sometimes.
Absolutely. And they just started like, hey, I have this idea, I'm going to do, and we have some success stories. I mean, it's amazing. Well, it came through this process. We realized we don't have any co-working spaces. We don't have any innovation centers, entrepreneurial space, zero in Kapolei. And yet you can find them in town. There's a handful of them. So we saw a need. And so our number one priority that we've been working on is to establish a West Oahu Innovation Center. And so we've been working really hard on that. We partnered with the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement, CNHA. We have the largest concentration of Native Hawaiians on the West Side. And so, they were working on some similar types. It's about collaboration. I was talking about that earlier. Right. And so it just made sense. Let's work together. So we're right now in the process of securing funding. And our what we hope to do is actually establish the center and, have it operating for about, maybe up to 2 years, and then have an operator come and take it over. Sure. But it would also give those small businesses, kind of a stepping stone to launch and elevate their business. So
they can hold meetings, they can hold professional meetings, they can, gatherings, the training,
technical resources, like marketing and accounting and all of workshops, all of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really cool stuff. If you don't mind, David, I'm going to throw up my priorities. I can show it on the screen.
Share if you've got it, because on the people listen, and we have some folks watching too, so that'd be cool.
No, if they're watching, they can take a look while I'm talking. I can kind of explain a little bit more. So these are the 6 priorities I've been just talking about. And you can see the number 1, establish that innovation center. And then the second one we had, I mentioned this earlier, is all these people are retraining and reskilling and retooling. And so we are working towards finding some public funding grants, what's out there, pulling those resources in. There is some federal money that is going to be allocated for this, but also some private partnerships and scholarship funding. And some of it's already happening out there, but we're hoping to, again, elevate it and take that to help our folks on this side. A lot of people don't realize this number 3. Okay, so in the center of Kapolei, if you've been out there, there's some, like, you have Kapolei Halle and all these amazing things. Kaiser just opened this medical center. And then there's these vacant land lots out in Kapolei. There's nothing on them. They're owned by the city. So we sat down with the mayor and said, gosh, can we look at some ways to maximize the use of these vacant lands, affordable housing, infrastructure, whatever we need to do, economic development. And so we're definitely pushing that forward, and the city's looking at that to get
That's
closer.
A great idea, because if you're not planning, I mean, this is just basic city planning, land use planning, but a lot of times it gets, short-sighted, decisions get made, and then if you don't have an agenda out there, then you miss these opportunities. And so, you start shaping the dialogue and the conversation early. That's great.
Exactly. And, sometimes things go from one administration to another and they move on to different ideas. So we're just
that's politics isn't mixed up in there too.
So the mayor's excited to work on it. They're looking at it, which is great. The 4th one I just mentioned, the digital divide with broadband. So we definitely need, and then 5 and 6 are items that are topical for sure. We haven't dove deep into them yet, but we intend to. Number 5 provide support and resources to West Side businesses interested in integrating regenerative tourism models. So you hear the regenerative tourism piece, and our tourism, the tourism model as we know it, is definitely evolving, and so we want.
Well, Maui says it's not working at all. They're saying no more beds. We don't want any more people out here. We can't handle it. So that model over there, it's kind of overdone, overwrought, and we could see that as our future potentially if we don't. But again, that's my initial sort of.
Yeah, but it's different in every perspective. And one thing that we've noticed is, and this is coming from those in the hospitality and tourism industry, is that some of these, our millennials, a lot of them are, and also just in general with the pandemic, people tend to, are mirroring taking longer stays, and you see more of them. I mean, hence the whole vacation rental issue at hand. But I think that's happening. I mean, you can go and you can work remotely for part of your vacation. And so it's interesting to look at that, but also the priority of what you do on your vacation is changing. It's not always about sitting at the pool having a Mai Tai anymore. As
long as you can get a matching Aloha shirt and muumuu, I think that's it, right? No, that was it maybe 50 years ago.
It's not the same anymore, right? I mean, seriously, people are looking like, hey, how can I go and learn about the culture and do something? Or how can, maybe you have a passion for the Aina and helping the environment, and you go out and experience Hawaii on your vacation doing something. I mean, people are really doing those things. And so
trying to find a little bit more meaning, because the tourist thing, maybe some people have done already. Okay, I've seen, but how do I now give back to this as a
And so the West Side, we actually have all of this at our doorstep. It's all happening. Those resources, that availability is there. So we really want to try to, again, elevate this and push that agenda forward. And then the last priority is really about the film industry. I don't know if you've seen, there's been stories in recent months, but
right, it's pretty vibrant film industry here in Hawaii. Actually, it's all, I mean, there's filming all over going on all the time.
absolutely. And I just showed you the cover of my magazine has the Academy of Creative Media, who educating and helping our new future filmmakers for one example. But beyond that, we are definitely in a position on the West Side to hopefully have have a presence both in film production, digital media, all technology, and maybe hopefully have a film studio on our side. Right now Magna PI is in Kaleloa, their studio, and they do a lot of location shoots on our side too. So, and integrated with that industry, there's so many other jobs and and growth that is affiliated with it.
Yeah, there's security, there's transportation, there's
food,
food, safety, it's a great industry. Hawaii, plus we're in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I wanted to just kind of share these 6 priorities. I can take this off the screen right now. So,
okay.
But those were all, everything I just talked about is so relevant. And so we are working hard to just push all of this forward. And West Oahu, compared to anywhere else in the state, definitely is positioned to make all of those things happen, all 6 of them. And I'm excited about that.
Well, and that's we say sometimes we create these initiatives, and then some of that stuff, it's hard to, creating a vision and then executing that vision. Sometimes, that's the challenge. And now as you're seeing coming out, you've got your sort of your views or the vision set a little bit. Now, who are you looking out there for partners out in the community to help you to get all this stuff done?
No, that's a great question for our business community. I mean, we're just starting to get this message out, and thank you for letting me speak about it. But we're just now meeting with different potential financial funding partners from the private side, and even just we did apply for a grant. Unfortunately, we didn't get that specific grant. There's others that were applying, but in that process, we partnered with a bunch of other organizations on our side. And we said, okay, if we do, as an example for this West Oahu Innovation Center, it's not just about the Chamber and CNH, Council on Native Hawaiian Advancement, coming together and doing this building. It's also about the services. And so I went out to some of our leaders in the Chamber, says, hey, if we had a place where our small businesses could be nourished and grow and supported, what could you do? And they're like, Kiran, I'll host a workshop. I'll give my, pro bono services, for this to help. And so that's what, there's a collaboration that's happening. There's a lot of other pieces. And, when we get going, we're gonna probably ask who has any furniture. You have some desks. Right. I mean, we're nonprofit. We're just trying to help our community and help our businesses. So there's a lot that I'm definitely looking for those to help us support.
So they just go to the Kapolei Chamber and find you. There's probably folks in there. I know the chamber is divided up into several groups, right? You have certain initiatives, or what would you call those, sectors or committees?
That you work in.
You talked about the job development and stuff like that. What other sort of areas that, as a broad sort of overview, that you?
Yeah, I can kind of give a breakdown. That I mentioned the education and workforce development.
Yeah.
We actually had an initiative that we worked on for about 9 years called Hire Leeward. We just transitioned out of it. That was included like a huge in-person job fair.
Okay.
And even before the pandemic, we decided to transition away from that. But we're looking right now, working on some virtual.
Okay.
So we'll have an online posting we're trying to get going on our site, and then. And then we also have some virtual job fairs. So when I come and update you in the future, hopefully next year.
We're hopeful we're getting back together in 2022. That sounds like we'll start to have our networking meetings and different things.
Networking is another part of the chamber. What we do. Let's see, we've got and advocacy. I mean, really what I just shared with you, those 6 priorities, we're advocating for our businesses and our business growth and support. But I've gone to the legislature, I've gone to the city council. I've had businesses come up and says, Karen, I need your help. I've definitely done that when I can. And
so you become a voice for the business community, because again, business, they got 1 or 2 employees, they can hardly do anything. What is some of the vaccination rate was low over there? And I know this is a political sort of thing, some of these larger businesses are requiring there's that thing that they're maybe having to do the vaccine. So I don't know, some of the business out there approaching that,
Well, so it's interesting you say that, because I have later this month, I've teamed up with Pro Service, and they're actually going to do a virtual talk story session. Okay. Talking about that and what the options are, because you to your point, you're absolutely right. The Biden administration has mandated any business over 100.
That has a tremendous potential for a negative impact.
They have to
businesses.
Yeah. So I mean, so I think there's a lot of discussion right now. That's goes into effect January 4th, and that's around the corner. So nice. On November 30th, I do have a talks. I call them talk story sessions. Sure. I don't do webinars.
Right.
What is that? And so I'll have that up on my site next week.
Okay.
I don't have it up yet, but I just booked it. But we're trying to give those kind of information pieces. I just did something.
It feels like it's changing a little bit too. Maybe they won't be able to do the full, but for right now, we know that it's coming. It feels like it's coming. So what are our best options? Do we have choices? What are the
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And what's going to be mandated, and what are my choices? And on the testing around all of it, and what does that look like as a business owner or a manager or an HR director?
What is the cost going to look like per employee, right? That I have to, if someone doesn't want to get vaccinated, then I have to test twice a week or however much it is. And those aren't cheap. And so, there's we're pivoting again or planting both feet now, maybe as we move forward. I don't know.
Moving forward.
That's right. One step at a time. Now we've pivoted. Now we're moving forward with, I guess, a bright sort of expectation for the future. Because I think there are it sounds like there's a lot of good things happening over there. A lot of motivated people who want to make, the West Side something special. And I think you're a part of that. And, and then I keep trying to get you, if there's a place that if there's some really good, I know there's a lot of businesses out there, but we want to know more about Kiran. How about not necessarily a certain place, but if there's a certain type of food that you like to go to, and maybe it's out there in Kapolei.
There's a lot of restaurants on the West Side.
Food, but is there a certain kind of food that just, if you had a chance to choose every time, maybe that's where you'd go?
Oh, I don't want people to be mad at me.
I know you don't want to, but there's certain types of food that you gotta have still like a type of food you like. I like Korean food, for example. Any good Korean food restaurants out there?
Yeah, there's some good Korean places. Okay, well, there's yeah. I personally, I gravitate towards sushi and poke and that kind of thing.
Hawaii, it's fresh, it's clean, it tastes great.
That's
different.
Definitely one of my top choices, but I really do like everything. Let me put it this way. I'm a cook. I love to cook. And I cook a lot of different things. I'm half East Indian. I cook curry. A lot of people fall over about that because curry is not an easy thing to find.
No.
But when I go out to find things that I don't want to cook because I don't, it's either
because it takes too much. You have to take all these little special ingredients and stuff like that. So, and you like to go out and just sit down and not have to worry about them.
Yeah, exactly. So that encompasses a lot of different things. That's part of eating out. You just enjoy someone else made it for you and maybe have a cocktail.
So there's a lot of great places out on the east side. If everybody wants to go out and eat, there's
West Side.
Sorry, West Side, not East Side. That's different. That was a slip of the tongue there. I apologize.
There's a lot of great places on the West Side. Yeah.
Yeah. So get out there and hopefully this traffic, which is a challenge sometimes for people coming in and out of there. If they're working and living there, they don't have to deal with this traffic.
That is, yeah. And I've always said that the traffic there's not one solution to it. I truly believe that it's multifaceted and multi-pronged approach is how it's going to, so in the big picture, yes, when the rail is done, it will have an impact, believe it or not.
Do you have an opinion you want to share about the rail?
I don't have an opinion. Well, no, I can tell you that
it's moving
Kapolei
forward.
supported. I can tell you Kapolei supported the rail, and
Right.
so did the chamber, because we need. It's one of those multi-pronged pieces.
Right.
We also, I talked about the jobs. I mean, we used to do Hire Leeward, but it's about connecting Leeward residents with Leeward jobs. My new virtual platform is called West Oahu Works. Mm-hmm. It's so much better to live and work for the employer. Even they have better quality. You're
going to have less missed days or late tardiness and stuff because you got your folks right there.
Yeah, and it's better quality of life. When you can take your kids to play soccer.
Well, I'll tell you, the cost is less expensive out there as well.
Economics, that's a piece of it. So, but in terms of solving the traffic, it's multifaceted. So it's getting people to work and live
right
on our side, work, live, play, finding alternatives. And then are still really pushing for growth, economic growth on our side, because the more jobs we have, the more, living wage jobs that we bring up, expansion of other offices and having a West Side office, and even the remote working, remote working. We've learned that has a huge impact. I mean, I don't know if you drove the H1 during the pandemic, but there was no traffic.
It was nice. It was nice.
It's really close.
It's not like that now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's multi-pronged approach, and that's where we're looking at. What are the solutions? How do we address it from all different directions?
Now I have one last question before I let you say if there's anything that you want to say, but if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Well, that's a hard question. Well, I can tell you what I do.
Your dream. What would you, if you?
I have always gravitated and done communications, public relations, and community relations. That's what I do, and I find joy out of helping to make a difference.
Sure.
And connecting people. That's just that. So what I'm doing brings me joy, and I think that's in life. You should always be doing something that brings you joy.
Right, because then it's not work. People keep saying, do a job that you're going to love, because then it's not work.
Exactly. So I can't tell you what, I mean, I'd love to be like everyone else. If we could all sit back
on a beach in Hawaii or something. I mean, what do you want?
But making a difference and bringing joy into my life and the lives of others.
Okay. Well, anything as you don't get a chance to talk to all of your chamber folks out there. You send messages and things like that, but I mean, you communicate with them. But any last words for them as they're listening in, because when the boss is on the podcast, they're going to listen.
I have to say that anyone who knows me knows that I'm a one-woman show. I don't have staff. I don't have a team. Someday I will, hopefully, but I have an amazing network of people that support me, the Kapolei Chamber. I have an incredible set of board of directors, 16 of them right now.
Wow.
And volunteers and just our business community. And it takes a village to lead a village. And I commend it. So I want to leave with a note of gratitude and thanks. We're coming up on Thanksgiving in a week or so. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful.
That's awesome. I think that helps. As we count our blessings and count the things that are going well, the tough times, they come, but
thankful, grateful, blessed.
That's right. And if you got that on your head and your mind as you're heading out the door each day, I think that helps. So that's a inspirational, ma'am. And so I'll take that with me as well. And to all those folks who are part of the chamber and who maybe should be a part of the chamber, because now after hearing you, Kiran, they need to get involved.
Absolutely.
What does that look like? How do we get involved?
You know what? Our memberships are very affordable, very affordable for our small businesses. It's created that way. We do have sponsorships that sustain us.
Okay.
But yes, very affordable. Reach out to me. I'm glad to talk story with you and learn more about your business and help.
Right, and you
help you thrive.
And then as a member, you get access to all these great resources that you're building and developing. So, like an Insta network that you get to just transport it into. So, it's a wonderful thing you've built, Kiran, and we're excited to hear. So, this is number 2. I'm sure we're going to be having you back because there's all this progress we're going to see for sure.
I hope so. Yes.
For sure.
Yes, for sure.
Well,
I'm happy to report.
Any last parting words for family or loved ones out there?
Like I said, I'm just thankful, grateful, blessed, and I want to wish everyone a happy holiday season. And thank you for having me today, and happy Aloha Friday.
Yes, I'm excited. It's Friday, and again, in your willingness to come on and talk with us. And if there's any other members of the chamber that are out there that would feel like they want to talk about their business and how they came up and what makes them special about their business and things, we'd love to have them on.
Absolutely,
so we welcome them anytime.
Maybe we can do some spotlights.
For sure, we'd love to have them on. And everybody's got a story, and every business has a story, and we want to hear it.
Remember, I was talking about the story of place, and that's you're at. It's all about the stories.
Yeah.
So
because that's half the product is the story behind who's building whatever you're getting. So
exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Kiran, again, feel like a kindred spirit, a business person, and loving what we're doing, and I'm excited to help with this and the Hawaii Boss team is hopefully we can get some people out there excited about West Hawaii and West Oahu and make things continue to move in the right direction for you. All right. Until then, big mahalo and aloha.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.